have a big purchase coming up or just trying to get some bills paid off? Is it better for you to do some rideshare driving with that or work more overtime at your job? Let's find out. Hi, I'm Tyler from the RideShare Guy. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look and discussing if it makes more sense to work overtime at your regular 9 to 5 that you have now, or to start rideshare driving. And it may sound like a simple thing, and in a lot of ways it is when it comes to just strictly by the numbers thing, but there's a lot more to think about. Now, when we first start thinking about rideshare driving, typically we start thinking of it because we have lost our income altogether. Maybe we've lost a job, or we're trying to supplement that income and make a little bit of extra to pay for a vacation, to pay down debt, or whatever else is going on. So which is better to do? Now, obviously, if you've lost your job entirely, some money's better than nothing, so you're gonna start rideshare driving. But if you have the choice to decide between either working more overtime or rideshare driving, which is the better option? Well, the answer comes down to quite a few things. The first thing you need to decide, whether it's going to be rideshare driving or working extra hours at work, is how many hours are you willing to put in? So are you willing to put in an extra day of work, so an 8-hour shift? Are you willing to put in an extra 20 hours, 30 hours, or 40 hours a week, whether that's rideshare driving or working your 9 to 5 job? So knowing how many hours you're gonna work is gonna help you decide exactly what you're going to wanna do, and it can help you mentally prepare for what you're gonna do, as well as letting your family and friends know that you're gonna be unavailable those hours. So it helps a lot with that to just, before you even decide what you're gonna do, decide how many hours you're willing to work to get to that goal that you're reaching out for. Then ask yourself, how long are you willing to do that? So maybe you're willing to do 80, 90, 100-hour work weeks, but are you willing to do that for months and months or even years? Or would it be better for you to do that for a set amount of time? So I know some have found that what they'll do is they'll work a really heavy week. So they might work an 80, 90, 100-hour week. And then the next week they go back to only doing their regular job. For me personally, I like to do heavy work months. So I'll have a month where I'm just really heavy into my work, whether it's rideshare driving, getting articles and freelancing done, whatever the case is. But I have 1 month where I'm really busy, and then I have 2 months where I'm not coasting, I'm not doing nothing, but I'm definitely doing a lot less than that 1 month. So having that in mind of what you want to do, or maybe you're like, I need this in 6 months, so you're going to drive and do whatever you need to do for the next 6 months, do those 100-hour weeks, but just have that end date in mind, because it makes it a lot easier to actually reach your goal when you're deciding if you're going to work extra, again, whether that's rideshare driving or working overtime. Now, a question that I got all the time when I started rideshare driving was, why don't you just work extra hours at work and make more money without putting wear and tear in your car? And honestly, on a strictly numbers basis, that would have made a lot of sense. I probably would have made a lot more working overtime at my regular job than I would have doing Lyft. At the time was the only rideshare driving that I could get. So why was I doing Lyft rather than doing my regular job? Well, the amount of money I was making wasn't that much less. So it was around the same amount of money I could have made, number one. Number two, for me, it made me feel like I was actually accomplishing something on my own. I wasn't working for someone else, because as an independent contractor, I was making my own money. So that was just a good feeling and a great way for me to get into entrepreneurship and ultimately starting my own business and all that. So that really helped me with that. But in addition to that, it allowed me to turn that part of my brain off that I needed to use for the job that I had. So I worked in the pharmacy. There's a lot of mental stuff that goes into that when it comes to insurance and all that. So I was able to turn that side of my brain completely off and just get in the car, drive, focus on that, taking care of my passengers. So it allowed me to relax while making money. So obviously rideshare driving isn't completely relaxing, but if I had to do more and more of the same thing, that kind of gets to me. Whereas if I'm able to split it up between multiple different things, it allows me to actually go longer in those other things. So I may have only been able to do 1 or 2 days of overtime a week at my job just because I couldn't mentally handle anymore. But I could do 4 or 5 extra days a night from rideshare driving because I didn't have to focus on that on a regular basis. Another reason that I really like doing rideshare driving versus overtime, if you pick up an overtime shift and you're 3 hours into an 8-hour overtime shift, and you just realize, I can't do anymore. Like, I just physically, mentally, I'm done. I can't do anymore. You have to stay for the rest of that shift. You've signed up for that shift, you're there. Whereas with rideshare driving, if you start it and you realize, I can't go anymore, I'm done, you can just sign off and go home, and that's it. You don't have to ask permission, you don't have to check with anyone. So another great reason to be able to do that versus doing overtime is you're not set in there. You can do whatever you want, stop, start, any of that. So that's another factor when it helps with your mental health to know, I can just stop whenever I want. But what if you don't have a car or you don't want to use your car? Would it make sense to rent a car just for working part-time rideshare driving? The short answer on paper is no, absolutely not. Renting a car can cost you about $500 a week depending on where you are. You can maybe get some, depending on where you live, for $300 to $400. In my area, the cheapest I've been able to find after fees and everything is about $300 a week. So when you're doing that and renting the vehicle, then you have to make at least $300 a week for it to start to make money. And you also have to pay for the gas for that $300. So depending on the vehicle that you're gonna get as a rental, that may be a couple $100 in gas. So you gotta realize that that all goes into it. So you probably have to make about $400 if you're spending $300 on that, on the rental, just to make even. So at that point, you're working a lot to get that money back. So if you have no other option, if you have no car and you're trying to get a second job, when you're not getting overtime, you want to start rideshare driving, and you are going to rent a vehicle, then think of it as like a rent to own, with the ultimate goal to be getting enough money saved up so that you can put a down payment on a car and get a car. And think about it, the average car payment right now is around $500 a month. So if you were to get a new car at $500 a month, that's still going to be cheaper than spending the $300 to $400 or even $500 per week renting a vehicle. So it makes a lot more sense to do that. So if you do have to rent, if you have no other option, treat it as a rent to own, where you're doing this just long enough that you're able to get the money that you can put down payments and get a new vehicle or even a used vehicle that's able to continue to do rideshare driving, because that's going to make you a lot more money in the long run. So which is better, overtime at your regular job or riding for rideshare driving? Well, the answer is it depends on you. You can absolutely make $500 or even $5,000 extra dollars a month doing rideshare driving, delivery, and all that, but you may be able to make more with overtime. What's going to be better for you? It's definitely something worth it. It's definitely something you can do, but what's going to be best for you is going to be up to you and your area. So there you have it. What about you? Do you think that it's worth working overtime, or if it would be better to do rideshare driving? Have you worked rideshare driving, maybe even rented a car until you were able to get your own? Let us know in the comments below. Please, if you have any questions, leave them. We read every single comment. We appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel. There's new episodes that come out every single week that help you make as much money as possible. If you found this video helpful, please give us a thumbs up. It helps us a lot. And stay safe out there, everyone.